Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their edtech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Ankur. Good evening. Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneur Show. Thank you so much for taking your time out to be here with me today.
Thanks, Jag. Happy to be here. It's going to be interesting. Let's unwind further.
Great. Thank you, Ankur. It's a pleasure having you. Ankur, first question, very simple. As a questionnaire for me, what do you do right now? What are you doing?
Well, we are now building simulations for students. I started teaching long back. And after learning a lot of things and understanding the gaps in the education systems, we now work on a simulation-based technology where we convert their entire theory to learn by doing 3D simulations. So you don't have to memorize anything anymore. You don't have to go through a lot of theory, and
Right.
it's going to be much more fun and much more simplified version of your curriculum in monkey science.
Yeah, I was going to come to the name monkey science, but anyway, let's talk about it later. So when you say, you have simulation-based learning that you're offering, what are the age group you're targeting, Ankur?
14 to 17. You're going to enter with 14 to 17.
14. That's about 8th, 9th grade?
Yeah, 8th to 12th.
8th to 12th. Okay. May I ask, how did you zero down on that particular age group? Why not earlier?
So the science gets heavier as the students age, right? So we see in the early stages, science is a bit easier. So students are able to absorb the basic ones. But as they keep growing into this concept a bit more and they start digging deeper into science, the curriculum becomes so vast that they are forced to memorize things, just mug up, and the conceptual learning is gone. So our Indian system does not provide any provision for an experimental learning platform. So it's highly marks oriented, and that's why we focus in this area. And there's a lot more scope in the future as well, but our primary market is in this. Primary target audience is in this age group. Yes.
Got it, Ankur. Ankur, you said it's simulation, right? So can you just give me an example? Because simulation is a little, it's a high level word. So if you have to, take any concept and if you can just give an example as to how it pans out for a student in real time.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that, Jack. I thought you wouldn't ask that. Yes. So you see, let's take a certain topic, electricity, for instance. Yes. So you see, all these, there are big words that go around in the chapter, potential, voltage, and there is current, rate of flow of charge, resistance, and, big fancy words that come in. But it's quite often students don't actually understand what resistance is, what voltage is, especially in our time, myself, when we were growing up, it took me like 3-4 years to understand what actually electricity is, what actually voltage is, and how to control it. So what we do is, so in a traditional system, in a traditional classroom system, what happens is the teacher is usually explaining on the board, and he or she would probably draw a circuit and say the current is flowing. Right, and this happens, there's a resistance here, and this will do something to it, and then something will come out, and this will happen, something happens. Right, but the students don't actually observe much about it. They know that current is flowing, 2 amperes is flowing, there is some resistance there, and this is the formula to use, and I'll get the answer. What does it do? Completely gone. So we saw the next stage of EdTech, where we saw some video-based learning coming in. Video-based learning was helpful, very, very helpful. It showed users how what happens inside the wire, and how are these factors affecting each other. But then again, it has its own limitations. You cannot control a video, right? You have somebody recorded the video according to their interpretation of the topic. So you don't have much control on the learning process. Whereas the next level of EdTech is simulation learning. So this gives you a complete control of the learning process. You are in control of the learning. So you get a piece of wire with you. You can increase the voltage and see what happens. So when you increase the slider for voltage, you will see there are some parameters changing. So this will let users know this is what is controlling voltage. So voltage is basically caused because of difference in concentration of electrons. Now, how often do students know that? They know the textbook words. They know work done to do blah 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 blah, but they don't actually interpret it there, right? So you could
Correct.
actually now control it, increase the voltage, and you'll see there is a greater difference in concentration. And because of this, you'll see more electrons flowing through. Right? Increase the resistance, and we'll have something popping up in the wire, and that will obstruct the flow of charge. Right? And you could increase the temperature, area of cross section, length, and see how these parameters affect the current. So if this is mainly in a qualitative analysis, we could take it into a quantitative analysis. So that is, if your resistance is so much, if the length is 10 centimeter, area is so much, then what is the current going to be? Right? We'll calculate that and give it to you. And this will also match your theoretical data. So what we've done with our product is we taught our product the science itself. So our system, the simulation will behave like it's a piece of wire. It will obey all the laws of science, and all you have to do is manipulate those values and enjoy.
Great. It sounded like, chat GPT for science, basically. But of course, way more advanced. When you say that, you've taught your software the entire science for it to kind of, obey the laws and stuff like that. So you must have you used stuff like machine learning and artificial intelligence to build this? Was that needed even?
It is needed, but not right now. We're not going to be implementing it right now, but we are going to
Okay.
keep improving it further. And there's always a lot of scope to integrate these new features in, and there is AI component to it. So I thought I would discuss it later on since you already touched base on it. So the simulations also come with something called as a monkey bot.
Hmm.
Right? The monkey
Okay.
bot is a simple chatbot kind of feature which will keep giving you an input or output on based on what interaction you do. So, for example, you increase a slider, it will tell you what it does and how
Right.
does it
Right.
affect the system. Plus, it can narrate it in your regional language. It could
Oh, wow.
be
Okay.
Marathi, Kannada, Malayalam, Hindi, Bhojpuri, and
Right.
Indian
Right.
regional languages, and it'll explain you what it is to be done. You could
Right.
also click on Teach Me option, and we'll do the simulation on your behalf and show you how it's done. And then after that, you could follow through it in your own way. Yes.
Brilliant. Uh, you know, it's great that you've already started thinking about vernacular, because I remember having a conversation with another builder, in the education domain, creator of software, and he wanted to teach how to code and stuff like that. He said, one of the biggest takeaways for him was he only did it in English, and because of which he couldn't penetrate the Indian market as much as he thought. But since he had already built the product, he was only thinking of how to take it to the US and stuff like that. But so early on, when you say that it's got all these languages, it's pretty amazing. It feels like, okay, that is not going to be one of your problems to kind of grow and stuff. But um, the reason I spoke about that was, Ankur, how did you come to realize that? Like, was it very intuitive, or you did some market research? Do you have some learnings behind to make sure you add a lot of other languages?
You mean to say how I came to the vernacular
Yeah,
component
yeah,
or the entire feature? Oh, yeah, okay. So, coming back to my previous point, I've been teaching for quite some time. Right? I started off my journey back in 2013 when I was 23 years old, and I
right,
started teaching since then. I've been full time.
right,
So I've been engineer. I'm an engineer turned entrepreneur since then. So having coached more than 3,000 students in the past decade,
right.
I understand the gaps. I understand the main problems the students face, the families face. Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
more the families. When you talk, you don't talk about one student. You talk about a family. Right? And
Right.
see, yeah, they have a lot of expectations and a lot of. And considering India being so diverse, I mean, you can't have one language in one city anywhere.
Right.
It's just practically impossible to, and especially we grew up in pretty much in Bangalore, and I speak for you also, Jag. We grew up in Bangalore, and we know how many languages are spoken here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah? So it's a good culture. It's been a very nourishing environment being in Bangalore, knowing
Yeah.
that back in '90s how it was, and the languages we spoke then, and the languages we speak now, and all the people what they grew up. So it gives us a diverse environment to acknowledge and respect each other's culture.
Right.
And this is our way of respecting our fellow countrymen and letting them know that you're safe with us. You can trust us with your time. The money, we're not going to charge you much. You enjoy the product and have fun, which is in alignment with our vision as well, which is to create a burden-free learning process. Right? Make sure the learning environment and process is very, very seamless, and shouldn't be much of a burden and a hassle financially or otherwise. So this completely aligns with our vision and where we need to be in the next decade or half, and that's how we reached all these components mixed together. So there's no one pointer. So coming back with all these pointers and a directive that we have to inbuilt it in the beginning itself.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, Ankur. Ankur, you said, you're trying to lift off the burden or any obstacles that people will have to learn when you've included so many languages. But as a creator, as a builder of this product, did you face any challenges, or was it some sort of a plugin that you have to insert and, have them all translated, or were there some manual efforts?
Oh, I so wish, Jag, it would be that way. I could just pinpoint something, just put it and then get it done. It would be so much easier, right? But building
I'm sorry.
simulation.
The reason I asked you that way was, today there is so much talk about AI. People
Yeah,
have taken AI for granted. They are like, hey, anything can be done in AI. So that's specifically why I'm kind of bringing this point up.
that's true. Very true. Very true. So this we started when AI was not there actually much. I think about last year, this time there was not much talk of the AI.
Yeah, no.
So when we had this boost, it was a good boost for us to start using a lot of things. We don't have to build everything from scratch. We know what was needed. We know very, very clearly what the product should have for our users, where the problem exactly is, and how to
Right,
solve it. So
right.
we already knew the components and features to be integrated, and which is not required. So we had a very, very good clarity on that. And all these things, ChatGPT and all, is just helping us. It's shortening our time period. So what we could have done in maybe a year is getting us done maybe in a month or a month and a half.
Wow,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, got it, Ankur. Ankur, just, going back to one of your posts, I was just reading some of your LinkedIn posts. Not that there are many,
Yeah.
but
I said I
there
don't
was
speak much. I don't.
but there was something that I read, where at one point when you started teaching 12th standard kids, they were 3 years younger to you. So you must
Yeah.
have been about 21, somewhere like that, when you started teaching. And you said that you found a way that you could teach anybody and everybody and help them achieve a certain marks and score. So parents thought, if they kind of introduced their kids to you, you took care of them. But then you said they are not kind of understanding the core of it and stuff like that. It's only translating into marks. And that's when you made a shift towards teaching them in a different way where they actually understood the concepts and, in a way you wanted them to interpret. But then you said there was a lot of churn and probably the marks were not being achieved. The expected marks were not being achieved. But why? I mean, if you help them understand, it should only improve, right? It should be even more easier for them to get the required marks and stuff like that. But I'm also not going to forget the fact that you said those students went on to crack tougher exams. So I thought, I'll get some clarification from you here.
Sure. I think you already answered one part of it. They were able to crack better exams and tougher exams and get through much more better. So one of the big problems that we see in the system is, I'm going to go a bit on the fundamental and the root cause, that the syllabus is quite big, right? And the amount of time we spend on, we put pressure on our kids is quite a bit. It's quite a bit. And then that's usually not something they could absorb in that speculative time. And not everyone's the same, Jag. Everyone's so much different. Some people are not meant to do this, right? They just have to because it's in their curriculum. So they just have to finish those school years or high school years and then go find their own place. So for everyone to be in that particular spot, it was very difficult. So making sure that they understand the concepts over simply the marks was very, very time consuming. It was as simple as any concept, something simple as organic chemistry or any numerical, right? There would be about 10% of the student. So if I go to break down an entire classroom, so 10% of the students are very smart. They're very quick. So they would pick up things very quickly. So even if you don't say much, so they are able to convert theory to pictures and imagination. So in their mind, there's already a stimulation happening. So see the creativity is so good. I mean, they're able to visualize it so really good. So your words are automatically being converted to a simulation in their mind. Whereas 90% of the students are not the same, right? And there is the other end of the spectrum who are about 35% of the students. No matter how you try to put it across, they would take a longer time to understand it.
Yeah.
So for everyone to be in the same bucket, it would be for us teachers to find that pace at which you explain an entire classroom is difficult, right? So there must be a resonance between the teacher and the students. Otherwise, it just wouldn't match. So this costs time. So you cannot go really fast. So you have to cater to the other end of the spectrum, the 35%, 40%. Make sure that they pick the concept, because if they understand, it's obvious that the remaining students would understand, right? Maybe some might could get bored because they might be thinking that sir is probably repeating the same thing over and over again in different ways, but that's okay, right? That's okay. It's as long as the entire classroom is in
Right.
together. That's very important. So that comes with time. So we could not complete the syllabus sometimes on time. So they would have an exam next month or a month or two later. So we would not be able to finish a couple of chapters,
Mm.
right? And that would come back to us as teachers. But on the other side, the chapters which are completed, they were really understanding it very well. And the joy that as teachers would experience when students walk out of the classroom when they understand something is it's the source of my energy. It's the source of us, most of the teachers' energy, right? And that's what keeps us coming back to the next day into the classroom. So that was my source of energy, and that was helpful, and that's what I could do every day over and over again. And that time consumption where it turned out to be churn in the beginning.
Right.
But I think a lot of students acknowledge that, understand the importance of it. But like I said, a student is not one student, right? It's the entire family.
Yeah.
Right? So, and if one student understands the importance of conception learning, the family might not, because the family knows that they're taking a hit on the marks. So, from the parents' point of view, they're working hard, they're paying the fees, and if they're not getting marks, then you're not actually learning anything. Right? So
Right. Got
it's
it.
a bit difficult crowd to
That's
entertain.
where, okay, got it. Yeah, that's why the churn happened. Yeah, makes sense now. And how did you solve that problem? Did you take a call to let go of the super smart ones, or did you make separate batches? Where the smarter ones would be in one class, and then the majority of them would be in the other class. How did you solve that problem?
Okay, so we catered to a promise. We promised our leads that no matter what your um, knowledge level is at, we will give you a minimum 15% increase in your marks. 15 to 10% increase in your marks. I'm not promising that I'm going to get your kid 90%. So if he's currently scoring 40, we'll make sure he gets about 15, 60, 65, 70% even, right? Maybe if we're already scoring 90%, I can give you 92 or 93, right? Maybe. Right? But having said that, we always cater to the difficult students who are finding it a lot difficult to acknowledge. Now, you see, if you group about 500 students in a session, right? If you have 500 students, it's obvious that around 30, 40 of them are going to be like super smart. Like they're going to be like super smart. So they are, by default, they're going to score 95, 98% all by themselves. So whether your presence is there or not, they're going to have it by themselves already. So it's the importance of the rest of the students. So we held on to that number for a year. And that gave us the word. The word of mouth was the most powerful marketing that we've noticed. Like word of mouth is so powerful. So
Right.
we didn't spend much money on marketing. We never did. It was 1 year we spent a little bit of money, but didn't turn on much. But our entire thing ran only on word of mouth. Word of mouth. The students and parents would recommend other parents and go on. So that helped a lot. So we only focused on the students who have room, a lot of struggling, and they want to move out of that phase and step to the next level of their life. So we cater to mostly around that percentage of the crowd. That helped us a lot to make a name.
Got it, Ankur. Ankur, monkey science came after this. So are you still continuing to teach, or are you now completely focusing on monkey science?
Um, no, I do teach sometimes. I do miss the classroom sometimes. I do miss students sometimes. So once
Okay.
in a while, if I do feel that, I would go into the classroom and probably teach one or two topics. We
Okay.
still have my first company is still working. It's
Yeah,
in
yeah, that's
India.
what I meant. Yeah.
So my brother takes care of that mostly. And whereas
Great.
when I moved on to monkey science to solve the same problems I faced with Ashank and a much larger and wider scale.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, I
right.
do miss sometimes. So once in a while, I feel like now that I'm building simulations, I would like to get into the classroom with the simulations and start teaching them with them instead of the board and the marker. I'm quite excited to do that. So we're planning to do that this week. So we have a beta deployment this week. So we're going to be deploying some simulations to Ashok, and I'm excited to take a class. I'm planning to take a class with some of them and see how it turns out to be. Yes.
Great. Ankur, of all the teachers or trainers that I've spoken to, right, who help people acquire a certain knowledge or skill set, it all starts off because of the passion of that one teacher, and they face a problem when they want to scale up. It's difficult to maintain the quality because it's that one teacher who is the main draw for the students, and it's like a little bit of a celebrity status is what the teachers kind of get to. Now, the reason I asked you if that business is still going, how did you manage to maintain the quality? Do you hire teachers and train them to kind of fall into your style? How does that whole thing work?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question, Jag. So in the beginning, yeah, we faced quite a bit of a challenge. I'm going to touch base on this in a wide range. So when we started off, we did pretty well. The students were a lot of them, and then we saw that me and my brother couldn't teach anymore, because there were so many students we could not. We don't have the time to teach in that particular slot. So we had to hire teachers. But then again, parents would prefer me or my brother teach those chapters and to the students, and which is not always possible. So we learned that problem early on, and we started getting into something called as a faculty development program,
Mm,
simply abbreviated as FDP. So this program, where we would do is we would ask a teacher to present their topic, so of your choice, and we go ahead and come up with different ways of doing it better in different ways, right? And we would brainstorm together. So there would be about 8 9 teachers in a room, and every week we would stay there for about an hour or two in our rooms, and come up with better ideas how best to do this, right? If you need any equipments, okay, let's go get them. If you don't have those, let's make them, right? And what examples would cater to what kind of right, students. So a few examples should always be there in the bucket, so that whenever required we could immediately take it out and then use it, right? So our examples in context, different contexts were our secret weapon. So coming up with nice context which would cater to almost everything, and were pretty good. So we did a lot of faculty development programs. We a lot of storytelling, focused a lot on storytelling. So we would try to build one story. We would try to make one story with one person and something around it, and an entire chapter goes with that one person,
right, right,
right? So that person's entire context would that around that story itself, right? So even in the next day class, also the same story would continue. So it's almost like a movie played with this chapter. So it would stay with them for a longer period of time with multiple examples and events. So script writing, we used to work a lot on coming up with good stories. So that helped a lot. So we mainly focused on the storytelling with the faculties, and that brought everyone up to an equal speed.
right, right. Awesome. So let's talk about the whole hiring process. FDP comes later, once you've hired them, right?
Mm.
But how did you test them? Obviously, you didn't expect them to be at a certain level already. You would have probably expected them to be receivable. They should be able to have received whatever you wanted to kind of transmit. So how did you test for that? And what are your teachers like? Do you have a certain qualification like B.Ed and stuff like that, or you don't care what background they come from as long as they have done science in some form?
That's correct. We don't actually care what your degree is. We
Right.
don't care what the entire thing is. Mainly about if you understand your science well and you're able to talk really well.
Mm,
And like once again, the storytelling skill is pretty well.
mm,
You're able to
mm,
connect with the students, right?
mm.
So we will work with you. So first thing, what we want is your why do you want? Why we usually ask why do you want to get into this, right? Because any sane person would reconsider multiple times getting into teaching, right? So
I was going to talk to you about that next. I was going to be like, this is what my question was going to be. Look, if these teachers fit your hiring criteria, they must be smart enough already. And teaching is not a very high paying gig in
no,
India. So is it
absolutely.
a full time job that you're offering, or is it a part time job that you're offering?
We primarily offer full time job, but
Okay.
there are there are teachers who come in for part time as well. But
Right.
you only part time as in not in a session, but they only would work with us for about 3 to 8, let's say. uh, 3 to 8 you're with us the whole time. So
3 p.m. to 8 p.m.
yeah, so they would always be on campus. They always be on the center itself and available for all communications, parents and students. Right, if parents would have some queries to come and talk to them and some concerns to raise, the teacher should always be there, right?
Right.
Because that teacher would know best what's happening with that kid, right? Because they spend so much of time in the room, so they would know the best what's exactly happening. So we would want the teachers and faculties to be in the room itself. So first question we ask them is, why do you want to do this? And, right?
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So if the answer is convincing enough that they are dedicated to this and they enjoy this point of spending time with students, only then that's going to fuel you. Because
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
keep waiting for your pay every month, that's not enough. That's not enough energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we see any signs of people who who move past, who are above their how do I put it, their primitive need for immediate requirements,
Right. Right.
then, right? Then you're in.
Got it. Got it, Ankur. Ankur, next point is, when you're hiring, do you also think about the churn of teachers, or is that something that you take it as it comes, or how do you deal with that? Is there even so? How do you solve teacher retention, especially the quality ones?
Yeah, we do not have much of that. We
You
do
don't
not
have
have
problem.
we
Great,
don't have that much problem. So it
great,
was we had very limited teachers. At one, the highest we had is about 8, right?
right.
And we had these powerful teachers, right? Powerful, they were been as in powerful as in they're very dedicated in it.
Mm,
Just dedicated in the work, and they're ready to go a little bit above and beyond with the certain students. And because you
mm,
can't just set a certain set of rules, right? You can't just say that this is the amount of hours you're going to work and you're getting a job done. It's
mm,
about the
mm,
students always. It's about the user, right? So the reason why that happened, Jag, with us when we started off the academy, right? So we our friends came in. My friends, I had a lot of people who are close to us joined us in teaching. So the culture and the team was so lively, right? We would always have fun. It's just easy. It was all easy going. We didn't actually feel like we were working, right?
right,
And the initial culture was so good when we started with 3-4 members team as well. It was so nice that it was easy for us to expand and also find like-minded people, right?
right.
Like-minded people who would enjoy the company for the everyone being there, seeing each other every day, spending time with each other, talking the same thing over and over again. But, it kind of grows on. But having said that, there were also some attritions. There were some bad experiences also. But
Mm,
on the other side, the we didn't have much problem with attrition.
got it, Ankur.
That's what we
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think these things boil down to the fundamentals. So as long as that's right, I don't think there's going to be. You don't need to be touching wood, I guess. But okay, now let's talk about your transition from a teacher. Here's a teacher who's running a successful academy. And there is already a transition in that academy where you're teaching students to get some certain marks, and then you pivot, and then you're like, no, 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 it's not, everybody cannot come and get marks. I'm not going to care about marks. I'm only going to focus about how they interpret the lessons and how, conceptually rich they are. And then there's another transition into technology. Teacher getting into tech, trying to build a product could be a tricky thing. So how did that start off? Did you have any tech people from the tech background around you? How did that whole idea start off, Ankur?
Oh, okay. Um, COVID was a big accelerator. COVID was a big a question mark. All of a sudden there was a big question mark in front of me, and I was like, "What am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I mean, like, is this even right? What I'm doing? I spent almost 7, 8 years doing this, and
Hmm.
am I even doing it right? Right?
Hmm.
Because then I started digging more deeper into it, and so I realized that the way I understand science was mainly a simulation going on in my head. Right? Every time I would read something, I would have something going on in my head. And I would always feel like if I could transfer that to my students, somehow just take it out and then put it into their head. And of course, you can't do that. But so the next best solution is let's do something with experiments, right? Let's build instead of putting a classroom, let's build a lab, right? Let's build
Hmm.
a physics lab, chemistry lab, bio lab. So there's no classrooms, there's only lab, right? Equipments for everything available. And then I thought it was really good. It was a pretty awesome idea. I knew it was going to be capital intensive. So I started going into back to my Excel and I started doing some calculations and see how big room do I need and what are the equipments I require. And so I could, okay, fine. I came up with a certain number. It was quite capital intensive. And I realized that, okay, if I do this, so what? And even if I manage to do this, how many students can I cater to?
Hmm.
Maybe about 100 a year, or 200 a year, or 300 a year. Is that enough? Is that enough? Is that, are you happy with it? And the answer was no. So I dropped that plan. Then the next best thing is use technology. Right?
Right.
So so monkey science is something that what happens in usually my mind, that product is out there. So
Hmm.
that simulation is what is out there, and I would want students to start using it in that way and understanding it much more in a simpler. So this would solve, and that's how it is born.
Got it. Interesting that you had to think about a physical space during the lockdown,
Yeah.
uh, and properly you kind of transitioned into the whole tech thing. But yeah, there are a certain. I've got some questions with regards to the lockdown and how things happened, but I'd like to come back to monkey science now. Tell me, Ankur, I think you did your mechanical engineering, right? You don't have background in computer science.
No.
Now, what was, as a mechanical engineer, what was your starting point? You know that you want to do something in tech. You want to kind of simulate it, and your answer was you wanted it at scale. So obviously, tech is the way to go. Where did you start off? Who did you talk to?
Okay. How's the journey? I think I started talking to a close friend of mine, and she said she liked it.
She was
And
computer.
no. She was
She
a
had a
designer.
computer background.
She's a
Oh,
designer,
okay, perfect.
UI user interface designer.
Oh, right, right, right.
Web.
Huh.
So she we grew up together pretty much, right? So she
Right.
and I, we both faced a lot of issues with science and absorbing science in classroom.
Mm,
So when I put it up to her and she liked the idea, and we connected on that. So we connected on that and we had a good call. And I understand that okay, there's this problem. If this was there back then, we would not have struggled with all that thing that we had to go through, right? So
right.
it was much easier then, and that's how it started slowly coming up. And I started talking to more and more people. I knew tech was going to be heavy, so I started looking out for people who would be of valuable inputs. Their valuable inputs would be respected and acknowledged. So I started building my team from 2021, I guess. Yeah,
Mm,
2021. Started looking out for people and then started discussing and sharing with all this to them. A lot of people did like it, and eventually we started off with an MVP with a small team member, which worked out pretty well. And we started doing a lot of user studies on it. Started putting in students and asking them how did they like it and how did they go and what happened. You know, At the end of the simulation, we would see if they picked up something or not.
Right.
So, right. So we give an 8 standard kid a 10 standard simulation.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I mean, they would not even heard of those things, right? So, but they
Right.
would start looking at it. Simulation is a fancy word, isn't it? But actually, it's nothing but a game. Each topic is nothing much of a simple nothing but a game. You have a
Right.
certain input and you have a certain output. So you would give the user a system, and then he would just move up and down and see what happens. And after 20 minutes, we started talking to them and understanding what did you understand.
Right.
And he understood pretty much, almost 70-80% of what he said was right.
Hmm.
Right? And
Hmm.
although obviously he didn't know much of the terms, but he couldn't touch on everything, but he
Hmm.
picked up 70-80% of it all by himself without reading a single sentence,
That's
which
great. Yeah.
kind of was a convincing evidence. We had compelling evidence that, no, overwhelming evidence actually. It was just screaming at us that this is going to work, just do it. Right. And so once we already knew it somewhere, but once we have the evidence in front of you, it becomes more convincing and happy and relaxed. So that pushed us more further into getting it out. And eventually, till now, we have a full-time team with us
Right.
working on this.
Got it. What about the money needed? Like, how did you manage that? Did you raise funds or did you bootstrap?
Yeah, we are currently bootstrapped. We put in our own money a little bit. Me and my co-founder. His name is Murli Krishnan. So
Okay.
he's the CTO. And so we both put in money and we built a team. And we built in about close to 60 simulations so far. And yeah. And then we'll see how this goes. We'll start generating some revenue and possibly maybe even also go to investors and maybe raise some funds in the future. Yeah.
Got it, Ankur. So, Ankur, where is Monkey Science at right now?
Okay. So, yeah, like I already said, we finished about 56 simulations so far. So close to 60 are almost done. And now we're going to be deploying a handful of these simulations to users. And we're going to understand how they pick up the topics. So you see, what we do is, Chuck, we break an entire chapter into 10, 12 simulations,
Right.
right? So it's like almost flipping a page, right? You go to the introduction, you go to the formula, then you go to the initial next formula, then you go to numericals and so on. So we broke this entire chapter itself into simulations. So when you open your Monkey Science, you buy a chapter from us, and right. So you have the product, and you have this. You have a drop down, and you can pick a topic whichever you want. So you start with an introduction. You go with the first part, and you see what is happening. Play with it, understand, explain. If it's a B2B, then the teacher it's much more useful for the teacher. So they could um, so they could do it much better that way, right? And then if it's a B2C, then student can do it all by themselves as well. So you go to the first topic, second topic, third topic, and so on. So by the end of the session, you would have actually completed a good amount of topics there. So we're going to be deploying this chapter to a handful of students, possibly tomorrow itself, right? We're going to understand how they picked up and what could be done better, right? So this is like a beta deployment. So we're going to understand, take some feedback from them
Hmm.
if they found the simulation pretty well and what could be improved, if the UI was correct, if there was some improvement, and if you needed some more information or not, and gather those information and come back to the drawing board again and make some necessary changes, and then make the next version even better, right? Meanwhile, we do that. We are also looking into sales starting from September. So we already have a good customer base on the side. We're going to use them.
Mm.
We already have that. So we're waiting so that it is good enough that we can start. Their money should be valued, right? We don't want our users to pay money and we use them as testing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we would want to have a good, decent product in the initial version, and make sure that their money is respected, their time and resources are respected. And once we do that, we start generating revenue.
Got it, Ankur. So, Ankur, you said from whatever you've been talking, I understand. I take it that you haven't generated any revenue yet, but you built the product. But of course, you say that you've got a customer base for you to kind of validate the product. But one of the most popularly spoken or widely spoken things of late that I've come across when it comes to SaaS is they say don't build anything yet. First sell it and then build later, and all that talks go on. Of course, it varies from domains to domain. And you say you've made about 60 simulations, and you said one chapter takes about 12 simulations. Why did you build 60 simulations where instead of just building 12 complete one chapter, you could have then validated it then and there?
Yes, Jack, we could have done that, but we just started off 3 months back, right? Three. It's not
Okay.
been 3 months. It's just almost been 3 months.
Okay.
So we surprisingly completed quite a bit.
Right.
Right. So we were able to get our hand out there more,
Okay.
and then we now decided that this should be enough to go out there.
To go out.
It should
Okay.
be good enough to cater to wide range of audience as well. You
Okay.
see, we have to also look into which chapter they still have to do, right?
Right.
And which
Right.
school is doing which one, and syllabus. And India has so much diverse, this syllabus, that syllabus, and so looking into all of that, so we could have a few chapters for everyone cater to easily, and
Right.
now we can go out there. We have enough to start generating some revenue. Yeah,
Got it, Ankur. And how did you go about choosing, what you wanted to do as a testing version, right? Now there is maths and science. In science, there are like three streams. Do you also cover maths?
we will. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you just choose one subject like physics or something like that, or you chose basic chapters from all the three streams of science, or how did that happen?
Okay. So yeah, so in physics we took a lot of chapters. We did a few in bio and we did a few in chemistry as well. So like we
Okay.
said, we wanted to cater to a wide range of audience. So you see
Right.
there are other coaching institutes as well who are teaching, right? So they are, and we've been partnering with, we partnered with some coaching institutes in the past and exchanging notes and content. So we're going to work with them initially, and so give it to a bio teacher, a chemistry teacher, a physics teacher, right? And see how they work across in that model. So we've taken from all sources, but math we'll start catering to. Math is a slightly bit more challenging as compared to physics or any other thing. It is. I
Right.
think you understand why that should be the reason. But yeah, so we're going to put it into better context. But as of now, we made most of them with physics, then chemistry and bio. So our bio simulation is pretty cool. You better watch out for that.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah,
Um, so you said you started building your team from 2021. We are in 2023 now, and you've done most of the work as far as the product is concerned in the last 2-3 months.
correct.
So you must have undergone a lot of learning yourself, as a first-time SaaS founder. So can you share to the aspiring teachers who want to take your route, what to do? What if you don't have to say what to do? Please tell what not to do.
Oh God, yeah, I can't even say a lot much there, but it's been a long journey, Jack. I mean, I started in 2021 as a theory, in paper.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me till December to build the initial team, and we did that pretty well. And there was a small restructure in the company. The co-founders needed to move on, so they went across, and then we had to rebuild the company right from scratch all the way again. So that started this year Feb. So we were officially incorporated in 2022 May, and so it's just been about 13 14 months since officially. Yeah, so the backend work started much before that. All that was only me mostly. Till 2022 it was mostly me itself, all my doing. And then 2022 we incorporated, and there's a restructure at the end of the year. And so this year Feb, we have a full fledged team on it. So so Feb we started up there, and then March April we took us some money, trying to gather some money from ourselves. So April we started officially hiring people and start deploying the resources, money, and so it took us all the way till now to fill in 56 simulations.
Got it, Ankur.
So
Ankur,
I can't. I'm sorry, Jag, I can't talk much about it. But again, it's weird, I can't talk much because a lot of people involved as well, right?
no, no, no. That's totally fine. You can talk. I can totally understand. You can talk as much as I will ask you questions. You can, even pass from whatever you said. You said, this is a very common thing, right? When on a journey, I've spoken to founders, when they started off with a bunch of them, and at the end of 2 years, only two will be left standing. A lot of them will, move on, whatever reasons, right? So you said 2021 you started with the idea, it was just a theory, and then 2022 restructuring happened. Was it like principally in principle you weren't aligned with each other, the existing co-founders? Was it that, like, in the sense, in 2021 when you spoke about the idea of monkey science, you must have kind of had a certain team in your mind. You're saying that team itself wasn't existing in 2022?
Almost close, yes. So the initial team which I decided thought that could be the team did not work out.
Right,
Right.
right,
Then the next team that was there, we were not almost there in the same city.
right.
So one of them not in the country as well.
Okay,
So a bit difficult for us to work together, and I
got
think
it.
usually quitting a job and coming into high level of uncertainty is once again not a sane person would do.
Got
Uh,
it.
so so it becomes a bit of a risk factor at certain stages of life. It becomes quite too risky, right? So I respectfully understand that, and I
Mm.
understand totally why that should be important, because a lot of it's not only about the startup, right? It's about a lot of people involved with you,
Yeah, yeah.
family, kids, and everyone. So it comes with a very certain big responsibility there. So so we believed in the product completely, all of us, and we all of us still believe in the product. The earlier founders or co-founders also still believe in the product, and we are in touch. We are in very good terms, in fact. And I'm going to show them the product now, and then they keep asking me when is the next update coming, when's the next thing coming in. Let us
Right.
know, and they would also share their input across and what's happening, and yeah. So
Got it. Ankur, without going into a lot of details, or without taking any names or anything, looking back, as a founder, what are the takeaways from that whole episode of that 1 year? How would you, if given a chance to give it a shot from first again, how would you approach this whole people forming, team building activity again? What are your takeaways from that whole thing?
oh, okay, I've not thought about that yet, but I would start off with perhaps networking a lot, networking, meeting a lot of people. I don't talk much, like I said, but so
Mm.
I would start doing that a bit more, be out there a bit more, just put in more posts once in a while, make some content, and just be active on social media a bit more. Right, I would probably start doing that way, and I think that should just being out there, it just lets people know that you are ready to talk to them. Right,
Right.
otherwise I would usually be my work and my thing, mostly that way, and my students and my thing. And everything will be like that. But it's just not about me anymore. It's about a lot more bigger vision. So it's important to be out there. And that's one of the reasons why I said yes to Deepak. I think he sent me a message long back,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
40,
yeah.
45 days, 50 days back, and I did not respond. And I didn't want to respond yes at all. I also wrote no. I'm not interested in this. But then I said, okay, because I feel I shouldn't do it, I think I should do it. So then I
Right,
said,
right,
sure,
right.
Deepak, when should I do? What should I do next? So yeah, so I would probably
Interesting.
say make more things better that way, and be out there, talk to a lot of people, network. I think meeting more people, right? You'll notice that the world is very very small, so
Yeah.
it's so much smaller. I think the problems you're facing is not even that big, right? It's not really that big. I mean, there are a lot of people facing the same issue. A lot of people don't have a CTO. There are a lot of founders, non-tech founders are there who don't have a CTO, and that pool is so big. That pool is
Yes.
so big, right? There are non-tech founders and there are no CTOs, and that was a bit of a phase where you would go into these networking events. Later on, I would learn to do that, so go in a lot of networking events, and we all see non-tech founders sitting there and wondering, "Kab aayega, bhai? Kab aayega? When will tech guy come? We can pitch him our idea and then put him on board." Yeah, so it was a fun part. Now, all jokes aside, but I think it's always important to have a plan B.
Right.
So if that does not happen, what next? Right?
Yeah.
What next? Right? If this does not work out this way, what next? Right? What if you don't build 10, 15 simulations? What next?
Mm. Mm.
Right? What is the other side? It's everything. Every step must have a plan B. I learned that the hard way, but I've learned a very good lesson. And yeah,
Got it.
although this is my
It's
second startup, although Jad, this is my second startup, sometimes
yeah,
you actually forget about some basics.
yeah,
You forget about some basics. You just go in the flow that
right.
you. So one good thing I did, Jack, was I would suggest any other founders listening to this, I would suggest get a mentor, get a
Mm.
good mentor. Right?
Mm.
I think that is one good thing I did, Jack. I don't know how I did it, but that was a very good decision I did. So I I asked one of my one uncle is there, and I know him from past 15, 16 years. So
Right.
I asked him to be my mentor,
Mm.
and he said yes. He said, "Sure, uncle, I'll definitely do it." and he gives me a nice beating sometimes. So he
Right. Right.
puts me sometimes in my place and
Right.
tells me, "Oh, this is where you messed up. This is where you should work. Come back and then you look into this, look into that." Uh,
Right.
that was good. So that one thing I did good there. So that helped me save a lot of time. And I
Got it.
think having a good mentorship is very important.
Ankur, it's very interesting when I asked you, what you do differently. The first thing that you said was you'd network. So this is what I take away from that. So you're saying that, is it because if you think that if you would have networked, as a result of not networking, you had very few choices around you. So you just thought that's your only people to choose from.
Hmm.
And probably if you're networked, you would have had access to a wider group of people. I think that's where you came from. Am I correct?
Uh, yeah, I think that's what suited my problem. See, Jag, my problem was I did not network much.
Huh.
So that's why my problem, that's what I would correct myself in the past. I would do
Right.
this much better so that I would not that everybody else would have the same thing. So networking is not the only solution to the problem. That was my solution to the
Got it.
problem I had. Yeah,
Of course, of course. And the current CTO you found via networking.
yeah,
Got it. And yes, there are now, when you say networking, no, there are so many ways that you can network. And just to kind of, there are good ways of networking. I wouldn't say there is any bad ways of networking, but there are definitely unproductive ways of
yeah.
networking
That
also.
is very true.
So if you have to point people towards the right productive kind of networking, what should they go towards and what can they avoid?
That's a good one. So I did that. So when I started doing it, I went in with a problem statement. So by the end of this discussion, I must have some important thing, right? So there were a lot of startup events happening in Kurmangla, there are a lot of in HSR as well, and a lot of things happening once in a while. And a lot of us meet up there. There's a speakers talking, and after that we have a networking session to have. But every time you go there, I must have a problem statement in your mind. Not just go there that maybe something will happen. Maybe I'll possibly get a new customer.
Hmm.
I'm a marketing agency. I'll probably get a new customer, and that's why I'm going to go be there. No, I think in a much more bigger problem statement, and then come out with it. So within a month, you'll actually see that there's something positive happened after you attend 4 5 events. You'll realize that that's something. Okay, I'm at least one step closer to what my requirement is.
Got it.
Problem
You're
statement.
saying approach any networking event with a clear end goal. Like, what do you want out of it? Don't just
Absolutely.
leave it to the networking. Let's see what happens.
Not just because you're getting bored and let's go see what's happening. So that's just useless. I personally find it, but that could sometimes come out to be right.
Yeah, but if you have a certain problem in mind, it's better you keep that and don't keep it vague. Is what you're saying. No point. Got it. And Ankur, you've kind of you've told that you're not a person that speaks a lot and stuff like that, right? So how do you make that mental adaptation to kind of go and I'm asking this not from a very high level, right? I would like one or two actionable things. You would have done small things that you would have done to break that shackle and kind of talk to somebody.
Oh, no, that's not a problem for me actually, Jag. I can talk to 100 people, but you make me sit with one person in a room. I don't know what to do. I don't know what
Right.
to talk. I'm that kind
Right.
of a person. So I'll be very conscious and like, okay, now the pressure of entertaining the other individual is on me. Now what do I do? But if you give me a mic and talk to 100 people, I'll blow the room up. I can talk really well there. So I can entertain that crowd because being a teacher, it just kind of comes in talking to a lot of students and parents,
Right.
it kind of just inbuilt and you just come up with it usually. So, yeah, you do still get nervous sometimes. Just you do still have to figure out what is there. So I prepare myself. I usually create 3 4 pointers. Uh,
Right.
3 4 pointers, and again I think about the outcome of this presentation. After this, what should happen, right? what
Right.
what do
Right.
I want after this presentation is over?
Got it. So, which takes me to the point that, okay, so these startup events that you're talking about are some things that you went and you had to kind of present some sort of a thing. It's not like a seminar, where you would meet people over dinner and stuff like that. So, what can you talk about what these startup events are?
Sure. So there's one event in Kurumangala. I forgot the place name. So they gather around every Saturday at evening, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
They talk to each other about their what their startup does, what their problem is, and
Right.
possibly find partners, co-founders, or something as that sort, or also possibly also look at customer base, building
Right.
their initial customers. It's important, right? Once you build a product, you need initial customers. Or who are you going to sell
Yeah.
it to?
Yeah.
Right. So these they have the problem clear. They're very clear there. Right. So most of them come there and then come up with this, and the session they finish it up. Right. So and there are others also. So yeah. I'm sorry, Jack. What was your question? I forgot. It was a
No,
bit.
what I meant was, so what I assumed was the question came as a result of, my assumption. And then you told that, you go and you can talk to 100 people. I didn't assume that, you would go and talk to 100 people. I just thought, you'd go, there'll be some sort of a seminar. And then, at the end of which you'll kind of meet all the participants, exchange business cards and stuff like that. So I wanted to ask you, what are these events? How do people find these events? What do they kind of name themselves as? Or, and what is the outcome of an event like this? My question was from that point of view.
So there are a couple of WhatsApp groups for a lot of sectors. They're also based across with, fintech, edtech, right? So I have a few edtech groups with me. So
Right.
once an event comes in, there's something called as a push start event, and there's eChai, somewhere
Ah,
in HSR. So there are a few events that happen, and they're a part of the WhatsApp group as well. So if something
right.
interesting is there, I would usually drop by and then find out with what's happening, what's not. So
Right.
what's really good about this event is in the initial, once everyone's regrouped, right? Once the event starts, they would ask each one of them to introduce themselves, right? That
Right.
is a very good thing, right? It will save a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you would go there and talk to all those 50, 60 people and tell them what you do, what your company is, and this is why I'm here.
Right.
And this is what I'm here for, and this is what I can help you with.
Right.
Right? Be very content with these 3, 4 pointers. Introduce yourself. What do you do? What am I here for? And what can I do for you? Right?
Right.
So 4 things, and you just finish them up, put in a nice context, frame it in a nice sentence, and you just deliver the speech. And after the end of the entire introduction session, you would have people coming to talk to you, or you go talk to them. Depending now, you listen to everyone, right? So
Right.
you know whom to talk, whom not to talk to.
Hmm.
Now, why will a D2C guy go to a SaaS guy? Right? So they will not happen. So instead of that chaotic networking, this is much more organized. So it would save a lot of time, and then have talk to each other about what they can do, and
Got it.
possibly exchange words. Some I also get a lot of resumes there, and they are searching
Hmm.
jobs. So a lot of freshers come in there. So it's very good for freshers as well. So freshers can
Right.
immediately join in, these startup events. And if you're clear, if you're a fresher looking to start doing your own startup, I think you could work for another startup for some time. Join these
Right.
events.
Right.
Right? You could join these events and see whom you can talk to, and be very clear. I'm here to do this. I'm here to do this, and this is what I can do.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So yeah,
Got
so
it.
that's good.
Ankur, now coming to the CTO, you said you found your CTO in one of these networking events. What's the initial conversation with the CTO like? What I mean by this is uh, two parts, right? One is, how do you kind of figure out he's a qualified person? Because CTO is a very important role. He can make or break it, right, for you. And next is, how do you discuss the what you have to pay, the equity and all that? How does the conversation typically happen? What are
Okay.
the tech guys out there like? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes. So I met Murli. Murli applied for a LinkedIn post. So I applied for a job. I put
Hmm.
up for a CTO role,
Hmm.
and Murli applied for the job. And I shortlisted a few guys, and I met Murli. At a, we were staying in Bangalore and staying close by, so we met, and I shared the idea with him. And we are from the same background, so we're from the same culture. So he's from Kerala. I also have a Kerala touch in me, so we got along pretty well initially, and more than that, Jag, I think um, it's just not about knowing that if you are trying to find a CTO, it's not going to be your own company, right? You're
Hmm.
finding somebody whom you're going to share your company and product with. So
Right.
you can't just simply consider yourself, this is my work,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And you're going to be sharing everything with that person. So he or she must have enough stake in the company. So right, equals good amount of stake in the company, so that both have enough to work for. Wake up every day in the morning and know that I know I own so much and I got to get this done. I got to get this done. So it's there. So have our discussion was very smooth. So very, very smooth. Murli said, I'm also looking to do something. And I said, this is a good opportunity. I think we could work on this. And we slowly moved our discussion initially with what we can do, what we cannot do. We started talking to each other for a month. So once Murli understood what was that, what this entire product is, what is my mind and what is to be done, and ask him his point of view that is this right, is this not right? Right. And about nearly 45, 50 days later, then me and Murli had a discussion for stake, equity, and what would be the right. So not initially, because what do you talk to him, right? Because
Yeah, exactly. You need to first see the fit.
Yeah. So he now knows the product. He now connects with the vision, right? My main thing was things should go very smoothly. And second is the person, anyone, not just your co-founder, the entire team should be aligned with the vision.
Right.
It's very, very important because you cannot, once again, you cannot just wake up in the morning and get to work just because you're getting paid. Right? It must be a bigger picture. It must be a greater picture. That every day I write something, I think about something, somebody's going to use it. Somebody's going to use this right before the exam, probably, and clear his exams. And he's going to thank this person that you wrote this thing and you did it for me. Right? Must be a bigger picture, and helping that is important. So, vision alignment and having a smooth things.
Got it, Ankur. And I want to, come back to another point. You said, having a mentor is very important. And for you, you probably knew this person 14, 15 years before, so it was easy for you, maybe. I'm assuming. You can correct me if I'm wrong. How do others, if you have to look at a couple of qualities as green flags for people to choose mentors, what would you say? What are those qualities that you look for in a mentor? Because you're going for a mentor because you don't have something that they have, right? So what are those things that you expect them to have?
So my mentor says, his favorite sentence is, why does Roger Federer need a coach? Right. So, and he thinks he's very, very thoughtful if you think about it. He's absolutely right. And I think a mentor does not have to be an entrepreneur himself. Right. If he is able to stop you from doing something wrong, right? And if he understands that this is, it's just that when you see things from outside, right, it becomes much more clear. So, not necessarily a mentor should be from the same background, same experience. It could be somebody else as well who understands a little bit about all this, right? Little bit about, okay, some Excel numbers, some presentations, some storytelling, right? Some things that should be there that connects with them, and that should be good enough. So, how do you find mentors? Primarily, I would say that each of you should tap into your own, list of people that you know, and find who's the most wisest of them all, and whose words would, whose thought process is clear and is able to see you from outside and say this is what's happening and be honest with you, right? Be very, very honest with you. And this is where you're messing up. This is where you're not. So this is your strength. This is your weakness. And this is a point you could probably be worried about. Knowing you from the past few years, and so you might do this, right? You might mess it up here. So something like that would be good. But other than that, there are other portals as well. There are a lot of other, I came across a lot of websites and a lot of tools where mentors are there. You could also partner with them and then see how that works across. If you have nobody in your network, if you find that nobody's there, there are a lot of portals out there. I think I forgot the name, but there's something there.
That's okay. And Ankur,
also, Jack, I forgot the incubation centers. There are a lot of incubation centers which, right. Even if idea stage, they would incubate you. They might not give you any money, but they would give you some resources, at least some people to connect with and talk to. So that's pretty good there. So,
got it. Yeah. Got it. What's the engagement with your mentor like, Ankur? Do you meet once a week, or what's that like? How much do you meet?
Depends. Sometimes once a week, sometimes once a month.
It's not structured. Okay.
They're not structured that way. It is mainly around when you feel like, okay, this is this. Just before you think there are some few decisions up to be taken in the next week or two, next month, you would just go talk to him, and I would understand that if I'm aligned with it, if I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about this, and if I do this, this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and it's going to trace me back today. right? So I have a certain outcome. If this decision leads me there, and what could be the possible challenges along that particular path, right? And just when I'm a bit, when I feel like I should talk to somebody about it.
Got it. Got it, Ankur. Ankur, probably the final thing that I'd like to touch upon is going back to the pandemic time, right? Because you have a center where you teach students and stuff like that. When pandemic happened, everybody went online. And so what happened after pandemic? You went online. Are you back to your center now, or you've completely gone online? How is that panned out?
So we were already online a few months before the pandemic hit.
Oh, interesting.
So we
Okay.
didn't have to, start everything from scratch. So we had a certain workflow already in place.
I'm
Of
sure that
course,
was not in anticipation of the pandemic, right? That's your own
who
decision,
would
right?
anticipate the pandemic? It'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Pretty awesome if you could do that. So we never did that. So, but we just thought that there must be some digital presence. We already had digital presence, but
Mm,
we wanted to thought of having catering to people far away as well.
mm, mm.
So expanding a certain sector. But so of course, the pandemic hit and the offline centers were completely shut down, right? Completely shut down, and then that's when we already had a certain setup going in, and we had to scale it quickly. So we could do it in 2 3 days. 2 3 days we could just blow it up to another 100, another 100, 150 users more, right? So students could easily be onboarded. And I think that was end of the academic year.
Mm.
Yeah, it was the end of the academic year, and a fresh academic year was starting with a lot of uncertainty, whether or not this is going to start, whether or not that is going to start. But that was also the time we were closing in an academic year. I think March 17. So we have some exams coming up.
Right.
So some exams got postponed and they were put up in May. So an incident happened that time. One of our student, so the stress, right? The stress is so much in the system. It's not just easy to absorb it. So one of our student succumbed to it.
Oh my God. Okay.
So yeah, so that took up that started questioning, started asking myself a lot of questions from then.
Mm.
What am I doing? Is this what you want? So yeah, things. A lot of students face a lot of pressure, right? A lot of pressure with this thing. But somewhere I knew that having all this going through, somewhere that the syllabus exams are not going to be so strict. There's going to be some
Right.
amount of room for mistakes. There's going to be
Mm,
more room for mistakes.
mm,
So
mm.
try to keep it things as easy as possible, because online is not going to be so easy,
Right.
right? Somebody's mic is not working, somebody's
Yeah.
audio is
Yeah.
not working,
Yeah.
and not forgetting about these things, and they're not working properly.
Mm.
So a lot of challenges, yeah, a lot of challenges. Same thing, a lot of students don't even remember what happened. No matter how good you would try to teach, right? No matter how good the quality of the teacher is, there's always going to be some limitations in online classes. It's going to be major limitations. So,
Right.
so it was a tough period for us, tough period for students mainly to go through that entire thing, we thought the worst was over. After
Okay.
the pandemic got over, the students came in for the next academic year.
Mm.
Well, we thought everything was going to be happy and fun, and finally the academy is opened and a lot of students are coming in.
So you
But the
changed
problem,
from online to a classroom model.
we already had the classroom model, right?
Huh. No, that you came back to the classroom model. You
Yeah,
didn't
we came back.
continue doing online. Okay.
No, no, no.
Hmm.
So when we knew that we can open it, then why wait? Right?
Got it.
I think we were almost done for almost a year. I think
Huh.
9 10 months we were almost off. So
Okay.
once we got the rule said it's pretty safe and everything can be done. So we put all the necessary measures in place,
Right.
sanitizers and this and that, right? Or everything
Hmm.
in place, and then open the center.
Hmm.
And that's when he noticed that students don't know much at all what happened last year.
Mm.
For a fresh academic year, and now the work is like doubled. So you have to first teach them what happened last year,
Right. Right.
then come back to teaching this year.
This year.
But
Yeah.
whereas the curriculum does not give you room. I usually teach for 11th and 12th, right? I teach for 11th and 12th and go up to GE. So
Right.
my 11th students didn't understand what happened in 11th. Now they're coming for
Right.
12th. Now, how do you teach a 12th student who does not know what happened in 11th?
Correct.
So it was a bit of a work there. I mean, it was very difficult to bring them up to speed.
Hmm.
So usually back context, I think you also must know this. Physics is like part one, part two. So it's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
chemistry,
Without part one,
especially
yeah, it's the continuation.
continuation. So if you don't know anything in 11th, then
You
forget about
cannot do. Yeah.
it. It's almost as good as gone. So yeah,
Got it.
so it was a bit difficult, but the team was good. So, like I said, once our teachers, our initial team was very good.
Right.
So we do not, or the initial team did not go away. We were all together.
Mm.
The whole thing, the whole 8 of us was still there, and we came back after the center was open. We came back and put in that extra effort to bring them up to speed.
Right.
And yeah.
Got it. Got it, Ankur. Ankur, thank you so much. I think the topics that I wanted to cover, I have. Although I'd love to talk so much more about monkey science, I'll probably get back to you and ask you for another slot because you will have so much more to say. I understand right now you're probably taking it to for validation maybe tomorrow, this week. I wish you all the very best for that. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And what you're doing is pretty wonderful. And I wish you all the very best, Uncle.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me. Thanks Deepak also for having me persistently messaging me and putting me on board. I'm thankful for him as well, and I'm thankful I said yes. Thanks for organizing this event. It was quite refreshing. I thought this was going to be a long session. I'm going to be talking a lot, but I actually don't realize how in the past hour and a half went in. So, uh, yeah, credits to you there. I spoke a lot today.
Thank
So
you. Thank you. It's
it
a
was
pleasure.
really fun to talk. But having said that, we could always again connect and otherwise offline and be in touch. And all the best for yourself.
Thank you, Ankur.